Good morning. Good morning. I hope day 3 of re-entry is going better for you. 3 days of classes here into the new year. I don't know if you check the news as much as I do or the weather, but if the forecasts are correct, we're in for our first real snowstorm in 2 years. So we're supposed to get what the weather forecasters call a northeaster, and that could be as much as a foot of snow by Sunday morning. So stay tuned for that. And if you're brand new to snow or to a nor'easter, they can be pretty serious, and big blowing winds, a lot of snow. So just be super safe, and we'll give you information about that as you need to hear it. This morning's assembly is a special one. Williston Northampton Schools National Cum Laude Society Induction Ceremony. So I want to give a special welcome to parents, to all of the inductees, to Justin Frometta, who's back as our guest speaker, to his fan clan behind here supporting him, which is awesome, and to everybody here for this ceremony. Cum laude induction, for those who are not familiar with the terminology, is the high school equivalent of college and university induction into Phi Beta Kappa, the Phi Beta Kappa Society. Both of those organizations at the high school level and the college university level recognize the highest attainment of academic distinction. So the seniors inducted today are paradigms of hard work, perseverance, intellectual curiosity, and creativity. They are academic leaders, and while we cannot all emulate their achievements or attain their lofty heights, we can be guided and inspired by their example, and I know your teachers and your parents, seniors, are especially proud of you today. I was thinking back to last year at this time, and my opening remarks for this very event, I thought I was being very clever, kind of dad humor, and I used ChatGPT to write part of the remarks that I was giving on that day. And I did it intentionally as a way to introduce the audience to what was then a very new app, ChatGPT. Remember, it was January last year. Most people hadn't heard about that yet for another month or two. But back then, all of my attempted humor now seems rather quaint. We're living in an entirely different environment. The speed of change is mind-warping, especially when it comes to the fears, modalities, and possibilities that AI offers your generation. As you continue your educations, and I'm talking to all students here, you must be prepared intellectually and temperamentally for jobs that don't even exist today on anybody's radar screen. Trying to reprise my relationship with ChatGPT a couple days ago, I asked it for a real-life set of AI fails so I could share those with you this morning. And guess what? It wouldn't give me a real answer. You guys can try this yourself. Ask ChatGPT for ChatGPT failures, and you're not going to get any real ones because there are real ones that are out there. So I'm thinking that maybe it's asserting its Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. But AI is no joking matter, and as I hope you can all agree, and I'll give you one example that was reported on NPR just the other day of a real-world AI fail. Some of you may have seen the headline concerning a high-profile lawyer who's in the news all the time, and that lawyer gave a judge erroneous case material that was generated by AI. So it was all fictitious, and he thought it was legitimate, and then the judge realized it was fake, and that didn't go so well. So you don't have to go too far down the rabbit hole to imagine the fallout in all areas of our lives from people who make decisions relying on fake or only partially correct information. Think of generals, think of surgeons, think of doctors, attorneys, accountants, whatever it is. Williston's faculty are learning all about AI, discussing it in faculty and department meetings and attending conferences. In other words, they are doing what lifelong scholars do. They read, debate, synthesize, and create new models of understanding. Since today is all about a celebration of academic achievement and the dispositions required for exceptional work, I wanted to use my brief remarks to encourage everyone here, all students, to consider their academic goals and mindsets while at Williston, where you have the very good fortune, in my opinion, to be around classmates like the ones we celebrate today, as well as being supported by a deeply dedicated community of teachers who are passionate experts in their fields. So now I'll turn the mic over to Mr. Tom Johnson, Chair of our History and Global Studies and Cum Laude Society Secretary.
Good morning. We gather today to honor 8 seniors who we will induct into the Cum Laude Society. Induction to the Cum Laude Society is the highest academic award that the Williston Northampton School faculty can bestow. In celebrating such academic excellence, we celebrate our fundamental mission: to inspire students to live with scholarly purpose, intellectual passion, and personal integrity. The Cum Laude Society is a national honor society modeled on Phi Beta Kappa. Williston Academy joined this society in 1921. The Northampton School for Girls received its charter in 1951. And in 1971, the society granted the merged Williston Northampton School a new charter. All of us gathered here can take inspiration from the 3 ancient Greek words that form the motto of Cum Laude: arete, meaning excellence; dike, meaning justice; and time, meaning honor. Excellence, justice, and honor can characterize the life each of us choose to lead, and the faculty applaud everyone here and at Williston who strives to live a life so inspired. Moreover, we thank your families. We hope that they will enjoy today as a reflection of their influence upon your lives. Please remember to thank all those people who have helped you grow your roots and your wings. As we nurture your curiosity and persistence in the search for truth, beauty, and justice, you have taught us much about language and art, about math and science, about history and philosophy and faith, and above all, about a love of learning. Because we live in uncertain times, your effort matters. You remind us that learning remains a fundamentally progressive, optimistic, and democratic enterprise. In you, we witness what can be accomplished by a wonderful mixture of human potential and hard work, and we catch a glimpse of a brighter future. May you embrace the opportunity to improve an ever-changing world. As I call your name, please come forward to receive your membership pin from the Cum Laude Vice President Susan Machalski and certificate from Cum Laude President Beatrice Cody. Then you may return to your seat. Amber Fedor. Hudson Fulcher Melandy. Emily Hammond. Andrea Andy Kinsel. Calvin Klump. Catherine Katie Spence. Jeffrey Warner. Joe. So please stand for your formal induction. Ms. Cody will read the charge.
Your exemplary record in academics and citizenship has earned for you membership in the Cum Laude Society, a fellowship of scholars whose purpose is to recognize and promote excellence in academic work. It is our hope that you will accept the honor of membership as a responsibility to strive for similar excellence in all future endeavors and to contribute to finding solutions to the major challenges that are facing your generation and our world. On behalf of the faculty, I want to thank you for your consistently strong effort. Your commitment to the highest level of academic work has inspired your classmates and your teachers. By the authority duly granted me as president, it is with great pride and pleasure that I welcome you into the Williston Northampton chapter of the Cum Laude Society. Congratulations.
Well done, y'all. That's awesome. And I hope you keep it going in college. The same thing applies. Work hard, get to Phi Beta Kappa, and get some other awards along the way. It's a real pleasure to welcome back Justin Frometta. In the past, from this stage, I think I've shared with folks that part of my job as head of school is to go really all over the country and the world, connecting with alumni wherever they are at the events that we throw as a school. And that's an effort to maintain these kinds of close connections, because you and folks like Justin are the ones who are going to be future trustees for the school, always cheerleaders, I hope, and often financial supporters. It's been a lot of fun for me to see Justin in the years since he's graduated from Williston, which I think is coming up on 8 years? Give or take. So following a stellar Williston career as a student and member of the community and leader in the community, and having been on the receiving end of this ceremony where he sat where you were, Justin attended Tufts University. He continued his Wildcat baseball career there, and he majored in political science. Today, he works for the Boston Red Sox. Got Red Sox on, and I got a Williston shirt on, baseball shirt on. And while I know he taps his baseball knowledge for that job, I'm equally sure that what he learned in the political science department at Tufts prepared him for the complex nature of working within a large organization like the Boston Red Sox, my favorite team. Please join me in welcoming Justin back to his alma mater. Justin.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Hill, for the awesome introduction. Also, I'd like to thank you and the rest of the community for giving me the opportunity to speak before you all today. It's great to be back at a place that means so much to me. To be honest, when I was thinking about the speech, there was an influx of emotions, excited but slightly nervous, because I want to make sure you all get something away from this. After trying to think of some inspiration from previous speakers, I realized Miranda Gose said it best during her convocation speech in 2023. I was thinking about speeches I heard, and I realized I could not remember any of them. Hearing this completely alleviated some of the pressure. All jokes aside, I'd like to congratulate this year's honorees. You've all made this possible. This honor is a culmination of your hard work, dedication, and persistence throughout your time here. Whether you're driven by internal or external motivators, I know each of you have made a series of sacrifices to put you in this position, a position that we are all so proud of you for. That said, I'm willing to bet that you all did not reach this point without moments, whether positive or negative, that led you to utilize your support systems. This honor is not only for you, but for those people, places, or things that have supported each of your journeys. When Williston first reached out to me about being this guest speaker, my initial thought was absolutely. but I could not shy away from the cloud of cluelessness hanging over my head. What am I, Justin Fermetta, recent 25-year-old college graduate, gonna even talk about? I dug myself through a series of rabbit holes. Do I talk about the Red Sox? Do I talk about my college experience? Do I talk about Williston and how much it means to me? After weeks of not knowing where to start, it came to me. I was going to incorporate all of them into one and make it a big story. A story which by the end hopefully gets both students and faculty to recognize that there are no barriers or obstacles that cannot be overcome without resiliency, perseverance, and self-belief. Again, thank you, Mr. Hill, for the awesome introduction. They highlighted me for the person the world knows me as today. For some in the audience, the Boston Red Sox title might get your attention, but what if I told you I'm not exactly where my fate told me I'm supposed to be? Before I was Justin Fermetta, development coach for the Boston Red Sox, I was Justin Fermetta from the projects. For those unfamiliar with this term, the projects is used to describe a group of homes for poorer families, which is founded and controlled by the government. In my current role, I look at data. So it's only right I think about, based off where I started, what were the chances I'd end up here? Well, according to the data, as a low-income student, I was 4 times less likely to graduate high school than some of my peers. So the question becomes, how does someone who isn't supposed to be there end up getting there? The short answer: extreme determination, focus, desire to prove that I was more than just some statistic, but there's so much more within that story. Let me take you through my story. Starting with my time here at Williston, for me, one of the best parts about Williston is the special faculty in the room that inspire and push students to exceed their self-perceived limits. 2010 was my first year as a student here. The excitement about Williston and its impact on my life started from the day I got my acceptance letter. I remember falling in love with the campus and how big it felt. As you all know, once you get to know the campus, it's not as big as it feels on the first day. That said, when you're starting 7th grade and coming from an elementary school with a student body of 100 kids from preschool through 6th grade, Williston feels astronomical. The campus feels like endless opportunities, and that's what it ultimately became for me. An environment filled with faculty and peers that would force me to exceed any expectation this world or that I had set for myself. My time in the middle school, like many of us middle school days, was pretty interesting. I'd be doing all of you a disservice if I didn't tell this story. I'm not sure the current requirements around middle schoolers' participation in the afternoon programs, but when I was here, I'm pretty sure that 7th graders were exempt from them. Regardless, I wanted to be involved, and winter came around, and suddenly it was time for basketball tryouts. As a young 7th grader who was much weaker and smaller than I am right now, I thought it was a time to try out for varsity basketball. I'm not sure what was going through my mind because I wasn't even the best basketball player on my park and rec team before Williston. Let's just say that experiment ended with me being on the 4th squad. The reason I share this story is because it's really funny imagining a 12-year-old me on the same floor as some of you 19-year-old postgraduates, but it's more to show you how delusional I was. That said, that's a characteristic that has enabled me to overcome the trials and tribulations that have appeared throughout my journey. Whether it's the 7th grader who thought they could be on varsity basketball, or the 25-year-old who thinks they can be a general manager of a baseball team. You don't know until you try. Trying is one thing, but ultimately believing it is the other part. You have to believe it so that when you have the motivation to work towards whatever goal, even if it's somewhat delusional that you've set for yourself. I'd be lying to you all if I told you my life was sunshine and rainbows since I got put on fourth basketball. Honestly, in some ways, you could only go up from there, but that's just not the reality. After realizing that I probably wouldn't be a great basketball player, let alone a good one, I pivoted to baseball. As a young 7th grader, the game did not come naturally to me. I was a little uncoordinated to be good at a game that requires a lot of coordination and skill. With a limited number of players in the program, I got the chance to play on JV that 7th grade spring. Play might not be the right term. I got the chance to be a part of the team. My playing time was extremely limited that year. As an undersized, uncoordinated 7th grader, I didn't see the field too often. Nonetheless, by the end of my first year at Williston, I had a really strong foundation as a person to build upon. I continued to play baseball throughout my time here and was fortunate enough to be the team's captain my senior spring in 2016. But much like every other part of my story, how did I get there? My first year in high school came around, and by then I was somewhat found myself and came into my own. I felt more comfortable and confident as both an athlete, a student, and a person as a whole. I remember sitting in my bedroom before the start of the school year and setting goals for myself, make varsity baseball, and high honors all 3 trimesters. Going back to being a little delusional, here it is again. I don't think I even made honors in 8th grade, let alone high honors. In terms of baseball, I wasn't even the best player on JV the year prior either. But I set these goals for myself because I genuinely believed that I was capable of them. From an academic perspective, the year was fine. Did I make high honors? I really can't remember. My parents are over here in the corner. If you run into them on campus today, ask them. They probably have a better idea than I would. From a baseball perspective, I remember spending the majority of my year on JV, but I was able to pitch 1 inning against Berkshire on varsity. That 1 inning made me extremely hungry, though. I knew I wanted more. The goal was not to make varsity the next year, but instead to play on varsity. Sophomore year came around. Similarly to my first year, I can't remember the specifics of whether I achieved my personal academic goals. Unfortunately for me, the year on the baseball field did not go as well as I would have planned. With seniors at the positions I played, again, my opportunities came far and few between. Hopefully by now, you can all tell I'm not the person you want to count out. Barriers, obstacles, those are the moments when life needs you to be the best versions of yourself. As I mentioned earlier, Williston has special people who push you past your limits. Junior year came around, and this is the moment when everything kind of clicked for me. It was time to start thinking about college and just like life in general. Unlike previous years, I vividly remember how this year went. Pretty mediocre academically, especially during the fall. And as someone who's constantly leveraging stats and data for the Red Sox, it's probably no surprise to you all that I preferred math over English in high school. However, when I say people, both faculty and peers, push you, I genuinely mean it. I remember after the fall, Mr. Hanford pulled me aside and simply got to know me. But our conversation ended with this. You know, you can do much better than this. You're capable of so much more. I don't remember what caused him to see more in me, but our conversation forced me to see more in myself. Spring came around, and there were no seniors blocking me from opportunities. Similarly to my conversation with Mr. Hanford, Mr. Sawyer pulled me aside and said, Fro, that's my nickname, by the way, Frometta, Fro, this is the year you have opportunities, and I want you to step up and be a leader. These subtle, simple, and natural conversations inspired me. I saw more in myself than I had ever seen before. Instead of trying to prove to the world that I was not some statistics, I wanted to prove the people who stood by me right. That year, I vividly remember spending more time in the library, more time in the weight room, more time really trying to connect the dots and find the path that I wanted my life to take shape on. My grades skyrocketed, my performance on the field was the best it had been to date, It felt like I could conquer the world, but it was because I was pushed. I would have been fine without those conversations, but I promise you, those conversations sparked the light bulb. I realized I was capable of whatever I wanted to be, but I had to kind of earn it. Nothing was going to come extremely easily or naturally. I had to be more determined, more strong-minded, and more disciplined than my peers because as a lower income student, I would not have the luxury of money being able to save me from my mistakes. I knew every move I made had to be extremely well thought out because I needed a strategy to optimizing every opportunity in front of me. I carried this mentality through my senior year, and this is what enabled me to get into a school like Tufts. Unfortunately, life gets a little harder when you leave the confines of a place like Williston. Whether you go to Tufts, another NESCAC, an Ivy League, community college, or anything in between, college serves as a rebirth. You have a second life, whether you're given a blank slate to take baby steps into the adult world and decide who you want to become. After leaving Williston, graduating cum laude, captaining in baseball, and beating the statistic of graduating high school, I thought I was ready to take on the world. I felt like I could do anything. It was November 9th, 2016, the fall of my first year at Tufts, when I received a call saying one of my best friends tragically passed away. It had been my first real experience losing someone close to me, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror at one of the lowest points in my life and asking myself, how do you go from being on top of the world to this in 6 months? I didn't know what I wanted my life to look like, but I promised myself I wanted to make a difference. Shortly thereafter, about 1 month before our spring trip, I walked into the Tufts baseball coach's office and I told him I didn't want to play anymore. I knew that I was never going to make the major leagues, and I felt like my experience as a player was something that I should push forward to the next generation. So, at 18 years old, I started coaching high school kids. I did that for a couple years, and in 2019, one of my mentors got a job in professional baseball with the Minnesota Twins. When he got the gig with the Twins, I thought to myself, if he can do it, why can't I? Much like everything else I ever wanted in life, I became obsessed with the idea of professional baseball. If I wasn't going to make it to the big leagues as a player, was this the route that I could take? I kept psyching myself out, though. You didn't play professional baseball. How could you work in it? Well, who would hire you if you have no background in computer science, software, statistics? Only 1 in a million fans actually work in baseball. Why you? Although I was filled with self-doubt, I became fixated with working in professional baseball. As a senior at Tufts, I was interviewing with consulting firms, banks, Fortune 500 companies, but in the background, I was networking and learning from people about how to get into baseball. During the day, I'd grind out my coursework to earn my degree in political science, but at nights, I'd meet with a friend who now works in the MLS to ask how he got into data science. He said to me, no matter what you do, I think you should send a message to this person from the Major League Baseball office. I think he might be able to help. I took his advice. I connected with someone who ultimately invited me to a conference out in Arizona. Who remembers March of 2020? For those who can't remember, that was probably a time when you were told you weren't going to school because the world was going through like a little health crisis. Well, for me, that was when I was in the conference in Arizona. I was in the midst of interviewing with major league teams, trying to make this dream into a reality. The Giants and the Angels were the only 2 teams who I got the opportunity to interview with before being told the conference would be shut down and we all have to go home. Both teams circled back with me and told me due to the uncertainty, they have frozen their hiring cycles. I sat on the plane flying back home to Boston in somber. I was so close, but still swung and missed. To be honest with you all, I thought baseball was over for me at that point. I didn't know what I wanted to do because unlike my peers, I had not secured a job, and who knew what would happen with COVID shutting the world down. Like everyone, I went back home, did school online, lost, sad, frustrated, felt a combination of all those things. Luckily for me, I was able to secure a job with Amazon Logistics as a shift manager where I'd basically oversee package processing. I did this pretty much from when I had my virtual graduation until I got a text 9-ish months later saying, "The Red Sox have an opening. Are you interested?" While for most it seemed like a slam dunk, I was unsure and uneasy about how to navigate this one. I was in a position where I was doing really well at work, and I didn't want to leave a job before having my 1-year anniversary. Also, when you don't have that much money, why would you want to take a pay cut? I sat on the text, did not respond, but the person texted me again with a job description and said, "Do you want me to send your resume in?" After getting texted twice before I could respond, I knew that I had to at least give it a shot. What's the worst thing that could happen? I replied, "Thank you for considering me. I'm definitely interested." Shortly thereafter, I started getting texts from different people in the Red Sox organization asking to set up times to interview. Within 2 weeks of that initial text, I got offered a role as a player development associate in Fort Myers, Florida. Here I was, taking a leap of faith to pursue the dream that I always had. The opportunity in Fort Myers was only guaranteed for 1 year, but like I said during my interview process with the Red Sox, once I have a seat at the table, I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that I can stay for dinner. I'll always bet on myself. After year 1, the Red Sox transitioned me over to the front office, where I got the chance to call Fenway Park my office and have a front row seat in learning how to truly operate an entire organization. I got exposed to the intricacies about roster construction, the minor leagues, scouting, player development, and much more. One day I was sitting behind home plate in 2022, and tears slowly started trickling down my eyes. After working for the organization for over a year, it finally hit me. I accomplished something that nobody would have thought that I was capable of. I thought back to a point in my life when my father's credit card got declined at the ticket booth to an Orioles game, and 15 years later, I'm being paid to sit down and watch the Red Sox in seats that I would have never been able to afford. As I prepare for season number 4, I think about what Justin from the projects would say from Justin to the Red Sox. I put myself in those shoes, and I can't tell you what this version of me would tell that version of me today. But I can tell you, if little Justin was in front of me, I would say, there's nothing in this life that you cannot achieve. Even if it's a little delusional at times, but you have to have extreme focus, determination, discipline, all while having a sound work ethic. Some might hear my story and believe I got lucky. But someone once told me, luck doesn't just happen to people. We all have the power to create our own luck. I hope that my story inspires everyone in this room to genuinely work towards their goals, even if it may seem a little crazy, because ultimately, no barrier, obstacle, or adversity cannot be overcome without resiliency, perseverance, and self-belief.
Justin, that's great. I think you've just armed about 500 kids with an excuse for their parents and teachers and advisors, and all they have to say is, hey, I'm a little delusional. It's good. It's good. But seriously, the story that he shared with us about that pathway and the obstacles and overcoming them is one that I'll certainly long remember, and I hope you all take some heart to that. So a couple logistic announcements right now. Everyone who's able on the faculty, students who received awards today, parents of those students and guests Please come to my house and Catherine Hill's house, just here. Walk out, take a left, and we have a reception for y'all. Faculty who have to teach, sorry, but if you don't have to teach the next period, come on over for a little bit or as much as you can. And for the rest of you, have a great day and be safe for the Northeaster.